Absolutely. What's the most exciting thing you got going on in life right now?
Uh, Most exciting thing in life. I think everything in life's exciting. It's especially relearning these past couple years. I just hit my 2 year milestone this past Wednesday, so it's
Congratulations, man.
I think it's exciting relearning everything, and um, I don't know, just being the best version of myself that I can. And if I don't do good one day, I can try to do better the next day. I think that's pretty exciting because we're never too old to learn new tricks, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that people who stop learning are the ones that get stuck places that they don't want to be, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I am an alcoholic.
I am an alcoholic.
I am an alcoholic.
I am an alcoholic.
I'm an alcoholic.
I am again. I am an alcoholic.
I am an alcoholic.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am your alcoholic host, Raymond, and today I have a very awesome guest. Just chatted a little bit. So, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure, Raymond. I'd love to introduce myself. My name is Nico Morales, and I am from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Addict turned into author, goon turned into graduate, broke bachelor that broke that turned into broken person that was broke, that turned into somebody that can now help and heal others. That's who I am.
I love how you go to broke person because we don't get here on a winning streak, do we?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We don't. And it's a path that we all get to walk, and that path that we get to walk is something that we all need to walk together, right? And there's always different ways to get it. So that's why I like the name of your podcast, Many Paths.
Yeah. Well, this is I got the name from a meeting that got the name from a pamphlet, and I'm still in touch with the people. It was a Saturday night. It's kind of like a come one, come all type meeting. That doesn't matter. I guess they call it secular AA. I call all AA because it's you break it down whichever way, as long as you have a desire to stop drinking and you're doing some type of action with it. It's AA. It doesn't matter if it's traditional or secular or whatever, but that's where I got it from. Many paths, and that's what got me down on this path. So, do you like sharing your story, or we want to get into the juicy bit about you being an author?
Yeah, let me tell you what brought me to that part, because it's kind of a selfish reason that I became an author. But yeah, I started using substances overall when I was about 14 years old. Started off with cannabis. I was selling loose cigarettes at my local high school just to make some extra cash. I have an entrepreneurial spirit. I've been working since I was 10 years old. Kind of plays along with that Mexican idiosyncrasy. My dad put me to work, and he's like, yeah, only reason I had you was so that you could do chores for me. And I've been working ever since. But yeah, at 14, I got introduced to cannabis. I was getting a ride home from one of my buddies, and we had to make some stops. But on the way, he had rolled a blunt, and he was smoking it, and he passed me the blunt. And I took a hit, and I was like, oh, this is how other people must feel. This is how other people must think. This is somewhat normal, what normal people have to deal with. And I say that because that was just my introduction to substances. I believe that alcohol is a substance. It's just a legal substance. The state that I live in, we just legalized cannabis, so it's still a substance. Doesn't mean that because it's legal, it changes anything about the way that it changes your mind. But that's where I got started. That escalated pretty quickly over the next 4 years. Went from smoking cannabis to popping pills, Xanax, oxycodone. Then Oxycontin entered the market, and that one was I call it my boo boo grabber, because that one grabbed me by the boo boo and it didn't let me go. I have one of those fast paced mindsets. My brain is always racing and it's always going to the next thought. Right before I even finish my current thought, my current activity, my brain's already working on the next one. And so smoking weed and downers allowed me to like slow down my thoughts so that they could match my actions and my words. And that was helpful for me, at least what I thought was helpful. But because I was self-medicating and self-soothing myself, it wasn't moderated. It wasn't like I have the idea that if one helps, then 10's got to be way better, right? So if one shot made me feel good, then 10 shots, they're going to make me feel amazing. And that's the way that I approach life just in general. If $100 is going to help solve $100 problem, then $1,000 will help solve $1,000 problem. That's how my brain works. So I've always been an extremist, as what I like to call myself. But by the time I was 18 years old, I found myself going through withdrawals from oxycodone, opioids, and I was quite crappy. That's to say the least. You feel like you're going to die. On top of all of that, I was a pretty decent wrestler. Raymond, I had a full ride scholarship by the time I was a senior. And because of the choices that I was making, I decided to give all that wrestling up, give that lifestyle up, and just decided to enjoy life as I thought I knew how to enjoy life as a 17, 18-year-old little punk who had money and who had an idea that they could rule the world and solve all world's problems. By the time I'm 22 years old, I found myself IV injecting heroin. And the reason why I say all that is I'm building up to something. IV injecting heroin by the time I'm 22, sleeping in a truck that I owned in a Walmart parking lot because everybody around me just wanted me not to use drugs. And if I was using drugs, then they didn't want me to be around them. So I came to this realization that, well, if you survived a lot of the things that come with the lifestyle that you've lived, maybe there's a reason why you're living. So you should discover that. So I stopped using opiates, heroin, shooting up, all of that muck, cold turkey when I was 22 years old. But I say that because by the time I was 23, most of my family had reintegrated me into the family network. Most of my friends had reintegrated me into their social networks. Work was decent. I had a job and everybody seemed to drink. And everybody was like, yes, Nico, as long as you don't do drugs, you're good to go. I'm like, cool. Well, alcohol isn't a drug then because it's legal. Might as well drink. And so that's how I started drinking. I didn't start drinking when I was a kid. I didn't start drinking as a young adult. I started drinking because it was the only thing left. And that's one of the things that I like to drive home whenever I talk, whenever I speak, whenever I get to share my story, is that just because it's legal doesn't mean that it's good for you. The only reason why it's legal is because the government wants a tax off of it and they can make some money off of you. And that's why alcohol is legal. It's not a benefit to anybody. It's not a benefit to anybody's health. It's not a benefit to anybody's family. It's not a benefit. It doesn't make you feel better. It's actually a poison. And so from 23 till about 27, I drank. I drank heavy. I started off with the tall boys. Then I started taking pints in my truck with a Polar Pop cup and mixing it up so that I thought it didn't stink, but apparently it did. I get called out at work every once in a while. And they would be like, hey, Nico, you kind of smell. Did you party last night? I'd say, yeah, I partied last night. In all reality, I had partied that whole morning too. And I was making sure that I was covering my assets, as they like to call it. I ended up at this call center job for a couple of years, and it was the best and worst thing that happened to me. Best because for the first 4 years of that job, I drank all the time, partied all the time, just didn't do drugs. But I ended up having the same situation happen as previously to my other addictions. social networks started making me feel more isolated because they couldn't handle Nico being drunk all the time. Familial networks had me being isolated because they didn't want to be around Nico. You just went from one thing to another, and you think it's okay, was what I was told. So eventually I had all my family kick me out of the houses that I was staying at. Couldn't really hold a place to live myself because all my money went to alcohol. I'll just drink a little bit, not going to drink a lot. And I drink a lot. Ended up drinking 2 bottles a day at the peak of my alcoholism. And that was when I was 26, 27 years old. The girl that I was seeing, she got tired of putting up with me, and me and her split ways. And I remember on my 27th birthday, I'm not a big fan of celebrating birthdays. Like, to me, they're not that special. Just another day of the week. There's other days that I celebrate, like the days that I made significant choices in my life. But for my 27th birthday, my mom and my sister came and found me, and I was living in this building that didn't have any running water, didn't have any gas. It had electricity, so I plugged in a hot plate and a TV and a mattress, but it wasn't the best living conditions. And that morning, they had told me, "Hey, we want to take you out for your birthday." I was like, "Yeah, whatever." I went out, bought me some more drink. I was really paranoid at that time, really anxious at that time. So I had a gun on me, and I was sleeping in the living room on top of this mattress. And I guess my sister walked into the house, and I freaked her out because I was in that psychosis state of mind where you're not completely sober, you're not completely knocked out, you're not completely drunk, you're not completely awake, you're just in that limbo period. And I freaked her the heck out because she saw the gun on my side when I was sleeping, and the bottle on the other side. So she knew I was drunk, and she knew I had a pistol with me. So my mom shows up, and I remember my mom touching my arm and waking me up. And she said, "Hey, son, you got to wake up. We're here. We want to take you out for your birthday." And I grumbled some things, pissed off that I got woken up. And she was pretty adamant. She was like, "You might not want to celebrate yourself, but we want to celebrate you." And for me, that was a pivotal moment because I didn't know how to celebrate myself. I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't know how to take care of myself. So changed my shirt, put on a new shirt, throw on some deodorant, and we go eat some Taco Cabana and come back home, and I go back to drinking. But I started to think, like, man, even after everything that you've done in your life, all the messed up things, all the fake dope sacks that you sold, all the people that you've robbed, all the people that you've ran amok around, all the drinking that you've done, all the cheating that you've done, all the hurt that you've caused to your family and to your friends and to your so-called loved ones, these people still want to celebrate you. So why can't you celebrate yourself? And that was one of my pivotal moments. For me, it wasn't ever a rock bottom. I know that sleeping in a building that doesn't have any type of utility sounds like rock bottom, but I was like, my ancestors didn't have anything, so electricity was good. Like, that's how I register things in my head. And the concepts that I was thinking, the way that I was thinking, they just weren't working. And the help that was available didn't work for me either. Going to places that had strict abstinence, that didn't work for me. Going to places that wanted me to conform to a significant mental state of mind that I really just couldn't get my spirit behind, that didn't work for me. So I knew, again, after 13 years of using substances and drinking, that there was something I was here to do. And I wanted to find that out, because for me, figuring out what I was here to do meant that I could leave this planet. And that's all I wanted to do at that point in my life. I was tired of living. And so I wanted to get done whatever I was called to do so I could get on to the next stage of life. And I started to work on myself. I started to work on who I was. I started to work on why I was the way that I was. Some people call it shadow work. I identify with personal development. Not so much a sober drum beater, but I am a person who wants other people to do better each and every day. So I started changing what was around me, not just my thoughts, but what cause my thoughts to happen. So there's these things I call phase gates, and it's our eyes, it's our ears, our nose, our mouth, and it's how we take in this world that's around us. And I started noticing that after certain events that I would hear something, after certain events that I would see something, even after certain events that I was saying things, I'd want to immediately drink. It was like a autopilot. Get into a fight with my chick, and autopilot solution was drink. Get into some trouble or have a bad day at work, autopilot to me was drink. And I found myself just automatically doing these repetitive actions after being pushed to them through my face gates. And I started to change what I listened to. I started to change what I watched. I started to change how I spoke. And because of that, one day I noticed that my life started to change. And I began to acknowledge that change. A significant changing moment for me was I'm not a big country listener. I don't listen to country too often. And if you do, that's great. Good for you. But for me, that wasn't the go-to music. So when I decided to change what I was listening to, I put on country because I was like, it's better than what I listened to originally. And I'm listening to some Jason Aldean, I think it was. And this commercial comes on. This guy's screaming, "Thank God it's Monday. What up, what up, what up? It's your boy." And I'm like, who the hell is this rapper on the freaking, I don't want to listen to that. So I run to my phone and I go check it out. And it's not a song. It's a commercial. It's an ad for this gentleman named E.T. the hip hop preacher. He's saying, "Thank God it's Monday because Mondays are the days you get to start the week." And I was like, what kind of weirdo thanks God for Mondays, bro? Like, this is what's going on in this guy's head. So I do a little bit of research on him, and it turns out he had ran away from home when he was a kid. He had his whole life story, but he transformed it from a high school dropout to a PhD graduate. And I was like, well, that's the type of transformation that I'm looking to make, a significant transformation in my life. So maybe he can give me some insights. But before I check for those type of insights, let me see what kind of man he is. Because for me, the character of an individual was far more important than anything else. Yes, I had robbed some people. Yes, I had sold drugs. Yes, I had done some pretty bad things. But in my world, they weren't bad because I never hurt a woman and I never hurt a child. So as long as I didn't do those two things, I was good to go. And that's kind of the rules that I live by. And for this man, I could see that he was a decent character as well. I'm like, all right. So I listened to a couple of his episodes of Thank God It's Monday, and he's giving out principles on how he changed his life. And I never met somebody that just freely gave away change topics, freely gave away change methods. So I appreciated that. And because it was actually applicable, then I started to apply it. So at work, I would apply some of his concepts. In my relationships, I would apply some of his concepts, principles, and they started to transform my life. My relationships with my family started to begin to mend again. My job wasn't always up my ass about, Nico, why are you causing problems? These things, these traits that he was sharing with me, this path that he was showing me through the internet with not ever meeting this man, were actually working. So I continued to study, and then I learned that he had some additional information. So I started getting additional information from him. And within about a 4 or 5 year period, I figured out the pattern for me that worked out the best, because it wasn't going to meetings all the time. For me, my meeting was plugging in my headphones to my phone and putting on ET. That was a meeting for me. That when I needed to instantly check my self-talk, I would just plug him in, and I'd listen to something, and I'd change the way that I thought. What I noticed is that when I changed the way that I thought, my feelings would change. And because my feelings would change, then my actions would change. And I wasn't taking those automatic, reactive, self-medicating steps. I was feeling my emotions. I was feeling who I was. And I was able to dissect and break down what it is that built up my thought process. And by breaking down what built up my thought process, I was able to accept certain ones and reject other thoughts, because not all your thoughts are exactly who you are. So I learned from this man, this personal development guru, as they call him, how to change the way that I thought. And by changing the way that I thought, my actions started to change. And I say that because that was my path. I found that personal development was actually an industry. Like people paid to go listen to this guy talk. People and companies pay for professional development. People are working and looking out for their betterment. And for me, that was interesting because I'd never been around anybody that worked on personal development. I've been around churches who talked about spiritual development. I've been around financial people who talked about financial development, but not anybody who actually talked about changing who you are. And it was incredible. So by the time I'm 30 years old, I stopped drinking completely. 27 is when I had my last drink. By the time I'm 30, I actually acknowledge that I don't identify as an alcoholic. I don't identify with my automatic habits going to alcohol. And I'm feeling pretty good about myself, really pretty decent about myself. I'm feeling ambitious. I'm feeling excited. I have love for my fellow human beings, the ones who are struggling and the ones who aren't. I wake up joyful and not hurting, not emotionally hurting. Well, physically, I was hurting because I got diagnosed with what's called avascular necrosis when I was about 28 years old. And so I wake up and my hips would hurt, but not like my mental state. My brain wasn't hurting. Because my brain wasn't hurting, my body, I could deal with my physical pain. Because my emotional pain wasn't there, I could deal with my emotional pain. And I realized that I was using alcohol to solve a lot of my mental and my emotional pains. So this physical pain that I felt, I was like, this ain't nothing compared to what I've gone through mentally. Doctors tell me that I need to get both my hips replaced because they had collapsed. Basically what they described is that the amount of times that I passed out drunk on the couch, the amount of times that I passed out drunk and high, nodding off, I cut off the blood vessels into my hips. And because I cut off the blood vessels into my hips, they started to decay and die. So I had collapsed hips inside of my body that I was walking on. And Raymond, if you've ever seen a penguin walk, you know how they kind of waddle? That's how I was waddling around town.
Yeah, that's what I look like when I get off the toilet and forgot I had toilet paper and I have to run to the closet. That's what a penguin looks like.
Yeah, man. So I decided to actually address those issues too. There are some reasons why I started to address those issues. And one of them was my sister and her husband tell me that they're going to have a kid. And I'm like, what? I'm going to be an uncle. It means like I'm going to be like, I have the opportunity to be a role model for someone else. So I want to be the best role model that I can be. And I wasn't going to be doing no waddling anymore. And so I went and got both my hips replaced. And for me, that was another significant moment because when I went to the doctor, they asked, hey, do you have a problem with opiates? And I was like, heck no, I don't have a problem with opiates, but I better not wake up from this surgery, not with what you guys are about to do. I kept all of my stuff underneath the medical table. I never went to the doctors to go get this stuff addressed. So they didn't have it on my medical record that I had a heroin addiction. They didn't have on my record that I had alcoholism in my blood system. Like they didn't have any record of that. And I was able to take these drugs that the doctors gave me within their time frame and stop when they told me to stop. And I was able to share with other individuals like the changes that I've been able to make. I told you at the beginning that one of the reasons why I wrote the book was for a selfish reason. And it's because individuals around me, individuals in my workplace, individuals in my family, individuals in their networks, they started to ask, Nico, you made some significant changes. Like you don't stink anymore. You don't smell like liquor anymore. You're not bloated all the time. You're not sweating all the time. You're not messed up all the time. What happened? And so I get to share with them that not only did I do the personal development, I did the spiritual development, and I met my creator. I met the one who made me, and I have a relationship with him. And for me, that's Jesus. But in addition to that, I focus on a personal side of it. Like there's some stuff that I still got to do on my day-to-day basis in order to stay in alignment with what I know is right and what the difference between right and wrong for me and meet my standard of living. And I started to explain that there's 5 things that everybody needs to know before they get sober. Because Raymond, I saw that there wasn't anybody talking about the decision before the decision. There's a decision to quit, but there's a lot of questions that everybody has before that decision is made. And because I had kicked so many drugs, I had kicked so many times, I had gone through it enough times. I just started explaining to people the same 5 things over and over and over again that I decided to put it in a book. And then this publisher, he was like, "This is good. I'd like to publish your book." And I was like, "All right, fine. That's cool with me. Let's start pushing it out there." And so I wrote the book called 5 Things to Know Before You Get Sober for individuals who haven't completely made that decision, but they're in a place where they know that they need to make a decision because life is coming down the pipeline pretty quick at them. They don't know what to do. They know they want the best for themselves. They just don't know how to do it. Basically was talking to the person that I was, and I was letting them know, like, the first thing is it's a choice. The second thing is that it's super uncomfortable. I've been through withdrawals enough times from some heavy drugs that I know opiates, heroin, that stuff makes you feel like you're dying when you're going through withdrawals. But alcohol almost killed me. I woke up one day in the hospital, Raymond. I'm not sure if you had this experience at all, but I had been working and I was outside smoking a cigarette one day. And all of a sudden, I'm taking an inhale. And when I exhale, I just see yellow go like in my vision. And the yellow just completely took over like all my eyesight. And then the next thing I remember is I'm in an ambulance and they're asking me who's the president. They're asking me a bunch of different questions that I'm able to answer. And then I kind of pass out again. Next time I wake up, I'm in a hospital bed. And not just in a hospital bed, but I had defecated on myself. I had shit myself. And so I woke up in my own crap. And I had to buzz in a nurse to come to like tell them that I needed to clean myself up. I was like, the only time I've seen somebody crap themselves is when they died. So you either came really close to dying or you died. One of the two happened for you to lose control over your bowels like that. So alcohol, those withdrawals almost killed me because I was trying to do cold turkey at the time. I was just trying to cut it out. And because I'm stubborn and because I don't like to listen to people, because I am a problem solver, because I had life that I had to live without going to any type of inpatient treatment center, the path that I chose to remove alcohol from my life was harm reduction, slowly cutting back the amount that I was drinking. And that was after the hospitalization, so that I didn't have to worry about being drunk all the time, spending money.
I knew that's where this was leading to, and I've had a couple discussions with other alcoholics and addicts about harm reduction. And I still talk about it quite a bit with another guest that's been on a podcast a few times. And at first, like coming in, you're all hardcore because I'm a big proponent of Reason Recovery, and it's an AA program that my sponsor come up with.
Yeah,
It's just a 6-step program. But
nice.
we're abstinence. It's abstinence, and he doesn't. But digging deep and being in what I do and what my buddy talks about, it's just like I learned so much about harm reduction because it's like sunscreen and all that other stuff. We're reducing our harm, and and it's saving someone's life. I'm a big proponent for it now, and I'm learning more and more about it, and it gives people a chance to figure out what they need to do. That's my 2 cents on it. It's just the longer I do that, like the podcast and meet people like you and the other guests on here, and the more I work on myself, it's just I'm a 180-degree person now of the way I look and think about things now. So I'm glad I'm glad you're going down this road. So I'll give it back to you. That's 2 cents.
I love it because at this point in my life, I'm all about that abstinence, right? And I've taken it to a different level. Like I don't drink coffee because there was a point in my life where coffee was my new substance. Like if I didn't have coffee, I wouldn't talk to anybody until I had my coffee, right? I wouldn't engage with the world until I had my coffee. And that one just happened this year. Earlier this year, I stopped drinking coffee because I saw that it was a barrier for me. Sugar is another one, like not just abstinence of all types of drugs and alcohol, but abstinence of anything that makes me feel dependent on it to function in this world, to have a life. That's how I look at abstinence now, because it's absolutely wonderful. That's the part that I think a lot of people, abstinence is like, oh, you're taking away everything, you're taking away everything. No, you're not. You're actually releasing things that are holding you back from experiencing life and being able to experience life in a genuine, authentic way. Like feel pain when pain comes, feel heartbreak when heartbreak comes. But in experiencing that, you also get to feel joy and love when joy and love is shown to you. You get to have these emotions that you're not trying to drown or trying to escape anymore. Get to live a life that is worth living. And so I'm absolutely a abstinent person now. But when I work with the individuals that I work with, when I help out people, my first goal is like, hey, can we reduce some harm? Can you show some love to yourself by not hurting yourself as much as you used to? And that's where I think is a great starting point. It's definitely not a complete ending point for anybody, but I think it's a great starting point because it's difficult. And when you know a solution is there and somebody's telling you not to use that solution anymore, like that's scary. That's super scary. It's like holding onto a knife that's cutting you, but you know that if you let go of the knife, you don't know what else you're going to grab onto. It might be more dangerous. That's how I look at asking somebody to stop. And for some people, they're great decision makers. They are, and they can make that decision and they can stop immediately. And kudos to them. There's some individuals who aren't as good of decision makers. They need some more information. They need to make sure that what they're doing is the right choice, because everything inside of their body, everything inside of their mind, everything inside of their heart says that it's not the right choice. So for those individuals, like showing them little by little, training is what I call it. You're training to be sober on a daily basis. That helps them remove that from their life and then grab onto something else that's more healthy. There's some individuals that just don't like to change. And, I can relate to that. The only thing that I ever didn't like, the way that I like to explain it is that for me, alcohol and drugs and substances, they were my most consistent thing. Like they were always going to be there. They will always be there for me. That's how I registered it in my head. So the world can change. I can change environments. I can change relationships. I can change people who are around. I can change jobs. But as long as I got my bottle, as long as I got my pipe, as long as I had the needle, that was the things that didn't change. I was okay with that. So for some individuals, that change is what's the most scary. And harm reduction helps individuals make that change slowly, transition. And then, there's other individuals who just feel like they're missing out. Like, well, if I go completely abstinent, then I'm going to miss out on the barbecues. I'm going to miss out on the family events. I know we're recording right now in December, right?
Oh, yeah.
Some of the holidays is what stops people from taking any type of change in their life, because Halloween, then you got Thanksgiving, and then you got Christmas, and then you got New Year's. What the hell do you do on New Year's other than drink, right? Like, that's how I used to think. And I ain't gonna miss out on the New Year's parties. I'm not gonna miss out on the Christmas parties. I'm not gonna miss out on the family parties just because I don't participate in drinking anymore. So that fear of missing out can be the next driver. And I found that harm reduction is the best way to introduce somebody to a change in their life until they can get to that abstinence. Because at some point, it's an addiction to be abstinent myself. Like even just telling people that I don't drink coffee, I get individuals who like freak out at me. And I'm like, yeah, well, I just would drink 32 ounces every day. I drink it day in and day out.
Well, that's why I had to learn that. I had to train myself not to react and all that, especially doing this. I'm going on 2 years right now with the podcast, and being very open-minded. And this is like you said, coffee. I was like nail on a chalkboard for me. I'm like, yeah. But it's decisions. It's stop what's killing us now, and we're working on the other things. And I do better on sugar, but well, it might eventually kill me. But I could control that. I do control that, so I can stop myself. But boy, I touch that alcohol. It was, oh man, I'm getting like some old Donkey Kong music in my head. You know, it's like it's game on. It's game on. There's no control. There's no control with alcohol. But I do get reminders. Like we went, they just had a new restaurant open in town, and we went and ate that, and it's Mexican restaurant, and I'm sitting there eating cheese and nachos and all this, and I'm sitting there just like done eating, but I'm still sitting there picking at the nachos and the chips, and I was like, man, I gotta stop. And my kids go, why don't you just stop? And I'm just like. And it was just like right there and then I'm just like, because I'm an addict. I get it. My mind doesn't say stop, but thank you for telling me. And I stopped and I pushed it away. My wife moved the stuff and I was just like, yeah, why don't I just stop? And that's just one of the things. And it's just like, but I had to train myself to get to this point to where I could think, and that's this is other points to like what you're making, because this is I'm you got my gears going, Nico, because I'm getting on these other things because we were just talking about. I swear we were just talking about harm reduction again, and I'm gonna have to text my dude Tony. When this is released, I'm like, hey, you gotta check this guy out. And so I'll email your assistant the link to Tony and the episode we did about it. I think you guys should talk, man. But I'll give you the floor back.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate the connection. Well, I think you said something that a lot of people look at I'm sorry, I'm not gonna generalize. You said something that I used to think of as a bad thing, and I've learned to switch it into a good thing, right? You're talking about those nachos and how you just can't stop. You just keep on going at them, right? For us addicts, we have connected our brain to a certain outcome, to a certain journey, to a certain process that gives us a certain like we won't get off that trail, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, right? Like you said, it's game on, and it is. When I get hooked on something, it's game on. You're not going to stop me. No one's going to get in my way. No one's going to bother me. No one's going to deter me from doing what I'm about to do. I have learned in my life to just switch the tracks that I'm on. Instead of having that game on with the track of alcohol and substances and food and all these other things that I've just identified over my own journey that got in my way, I've connected somehow in my brain to helping people. So when I get an individual who's like, hey, Nico, I need some help. This is what I'm dealing with. This is where I'm at right now. And I give them the first test. Just in my years of working with people, I usually make people do 3 days on their own and then come talk to me after you've done 72 hours because I need to see you make some sort of effort, right? But once they show that they're committed and that they're on it, my brain just goes into this connection of, you told me the outcome that you want to get. I'm going to get you there. And I'm going to do it as best as I can, not by doing it for you, not by doing it so that you can get the outcome, but by doing it with you. And yes, we're going to have detours. Yes, we're going to have different ways. But that same addiction mindset is what makes addicts the best. They make the best entrepreneurs. They make the best partners. They make the best parents because you have in our brains, we know how to pivot from each obstacle. We know how to move around them. We know how to shift in such ways that we're still going to get the outcome that originally we intended to get, regardless of the path that we have to take. And that's what makes it so beautiful. So when I was going through this journey of, well, how come I'm like this? Because that's a question that I used to ask myself. how come I'm like this, Nico? How come everybody else can have a drink and leave half a drink on a table and you have to drink yours plus their half a drink before you leave? The table can't be left with alcohol on it. Like, how come you're like this? And it's because you're on a mission. And if you're mission oriented, change the mission that you're on. And so now my mission is to help as many people as I possibly can. Now my mission is to be one of the best speakers in the nation when it comes to personal development. Now my mission is to create systems so simple for individuals to follow that they can make any type of change that they want in their life. Because for a lot of the people that walk the path that we've walked, Raymond, for us, it was a difficult path, but there's 10 to 100 other people who are looking at us like, how did you do it? If you could just give me a how you did it, then I can make that same change too. Because for some, I know, at least in my community, it's taken out most of the people that I know. Either they're in jail, they're still drinking, they have multiple DUIs, like they lost all their family, they're been to rehab hundreds of times. Like they want that solution. Because we are here and we're able to have our own perspective, our own path, we're able to show other people paths out. And I love that right now in the date and time that we're living in, individuals are talking more about, hey, do we really need to be drinking? Like, it's more of a common topic than it was 5 years ago, more of a common topic than it was 3 years ago. And because of that portion, like, addicts are the best. I tell you, addicts are the most. I love being around addicts, alcoholics, because I know that your brain is wired the same way that my brain is wired. And we can get more done in a shorter window than what non-addicts can get done in a longer window. Like, you give me a task and tell me that I just need to get it done, I'll have it done in a couple hours. Let's say that it takes most people 8 hours. I'll have it done in 2 hours, just because that's how my brain works. You know, it's blah, 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 blah. I'm going to need this, this, and this. I work backwards and I get it all done. Just like when I was drinking. Well, my ultimate goal is to get drunk tonight. So let me knock out all the daily tasks that I have so that no one bothers me when I get drunk tonight. It's the same concept. So I think it's so beautiful how our minds work if we can just shift the track that it's on.
Yeah, just getting to that point to where we can figure that out and how we're going to do it and who are we going to talk to? Which way are we going to go with this? This method didn't work. This method works. This method, you know. Then you got all the social media platforms, and oh, you're not really an alcoholic. You're not an addict, and it's you want to get away from addiction and alcoholism. You want to become sober. It's your decision, and how you do it, it's your decision. And I hate social media anymore. It's you know, I glance at it and stuff like that. I don't like it. I move on. I don't sit and simmer. And sometimes I catch myself. I was like, man, that's really fucking stupid. Then I go, well, that's it. If that's their thought, that's their thought. And whatever. I'm moving on. Why am I letting this bother me? Oh my goodness. The relief I get from that now that I can just walk away and not simmer on it anymore. That's just unbelievable for me, because it's just like when people irritate me, I'd let that seethe, and I have no clue why. Oh, because it was always my way, or there's no way. And that's really hard on a marriage too. I mean, that's the biggest thing. But it's just people you fall down, get back up, and just keep looking for that person to connect with. That's the way I look at it. And I like the way your mind thinks, and it's just like, man, this is. Yeah. Well, I'm digging it, man. Nice. Except your 8-hour task in 2 hours. It's a 2-hour task, and I turn it into 3 damn days because I've done screwed it up 15 times. That's what I get into.
Oh man. You know what I really like that what you said there though is that when you fall down, it's not a if you fall down, it's a when you fall down. Like it's gonna happen. Don't put that type of standard on yourself. For anybody that's listening, that's wherever you're at in your journey, you're gonna fall down at some point in time. You're gonna mess up something. It doesn't have to be alcohol anymore. It doesn't have to be alcohol as the root. It's gonna happen. But when you get down, are you as committed to getting back up as you were to getting drunk? Like, can you that skill set's still embedded in you? Can you just apply it to something else? And that's was one of the things that in my journey I learned, and it was great to learn. And you know what? I was committed to getting all this stuff done. I know that that emotional connection to an outcome is super important to me. So can I create that same emotional connection to this new outcome? When I mess up with my girl, can I stay committed to being like, hey, you know what? I messed up. I'm here to help you out. And I know I messed up. What can we do to change this outcome going forward? Because emotionally, I'm committed to you. So what can I do? Like, it's not just anymore like, screw it, I'll go find a new one. Like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't work like that anymore. When I mess up with my work, you know, it's like, all right, cool. I messed up, but I'm super committed to being successful in this role that I'm participating in, that I chose to participate in. So can I just take that same emotional outcome and attach it to that? Because there was a day that you couldn't stop me from not drinking. You couldn't stop me from not using. Nobody was going to get in my way. And so that falling down and getting back up, it's not a matter of if it happens, it's a matter of when it happens, what are you going to think? And that goes to self-talk, right? I know that they do that in most programs. What kind of self-talk are you telling yourself? What kind of thoughts are happening? And I'll share this. I came up with an acronym that I teach the clients that I have. And the clients that I have, they come to me and they want to get some sort of outcome, whether it's life coaching, whether it's getting to their definition of sober, whether it's trying to achieve something that they haven't achieved before. One of the tasks that I give them is give me what you're thinking. What are you thinking when this stuff is happening? So I give them the acronym WAIT. What am I thinking? And they have to tell me what they're thinking when they messed up. They have to tell me what they're thinking when they're being successful. They have to tell me what they're thinking. And it's called mindfulness, but it's the best way that I can know how to teach mindfulness, because what are you thinking? What am I thinking what am I thinking for me? I have 4 non-negotiables every morning. I just wake up, I do my prayers, I do my reading, I do my journal, and then I do a workout. As long as I do those 4 things in the morning, I've validated myself enough to approach the day and know that I'm going to, whether I win or fail, I did what I needed to do to take care of me. And I could be the best person in each one of those situations. But what am I thinking when I mess up? What am I thinking when I am successful? And I kind of jot those down, because if I could track what I'm thinking, then I could track what I'm feeling. If I could track what I'm feeling, then I could track my actions. There's days where I don't feel like I was successful. There's days where someone needed to pay me and they didn't pay me. And for me, that feels like rejection. So, what am I thinking? I want to go to sleep, because that's how I deal with it now. Well, okay, Nico, you weren't being rejected. Something probably happened, and they didn't pay you for hopefully a valid reason. So what are your actual thoughts? Why are you thinking that you need to be rejected? Why is that your automatic go-to?
Well, I think I found my answers. The bad ones, fuck. And the good ones, fuck yeah.
That's it.
I'm programming those. Then when the third one is, it's the fuck it button, and that's when everything blows up. And you put a case over the fuck it button, lock it, and put it in the closet, and you're never gonna push that.
That's it. Give someone else the key, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, the longer I keep going, the first fucks gets farther away.
Yeah.
Well, this just happened, and it's just like, and it's kind of like, I'm trying to think of a good way to line it up, but kind of like something that instant explodes, but now it's kind of like a simmer. It's just like, ooh, I just felt the heat off that, but I'm not going to react to that. And I mean, it's. I'm still working on it, because eventually I just wanted to not even be the simmer. I just wanted to just pass by me and move on, because that's yeah, and it's hard to explain this kind of stuff to people unless you just keep applying yourself to whichever direction you're going with it, who you're working with, or yeah, I'm trying to figure out how you figured. Well, you said that what was the guy's name you listened to when you started applying a lot of this stuff?
Oh, Eric Thomas, E.T.
E.T. So going through this and leading up to this, I mean, did you just research all this and the way you present this on your own, or did you have like a mentor or?
So at first, it was just virtually mentorship. So this guy puts out all kinds of free content all the time. He's the number one motivational speaker in the world. He puts out free content all the time, and he has short messages that says, "Thank God it's Monday." And then he has these podcasts that go for about an hour long. And him and his homies, they just sit down and break down these concepts. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, that's how I think. And then I translate it into my own world, because none of them have done drugs. None of them have had issues with alcoholism, but they've all had their own problems. And taking their concepts and applying it and shifting it to my world is what helped me out in explaining this type of stuff the best way. Because heck no, I went and got trained on it. I eventually paid him to teach me how to speak, teach me how to break down these concepts in a way that can be digestible to other human beings. Because that's my addiction. That's what I'm connected to. That's what I need to do, is I need to help more people. The person that I was before, man, I run a business called No Halo. And the reason why I call it No Halo is because people were like, Nico, you're such an angel for helping us out. You're such an angel for doing this. You're such an angel for talking to people. I'm like, hell no, I'm not an angel. Like the 22-year-old Nico, he should have been in jail. He should have been dead. Like literally. I know that's cliche to say, but he should have. And because I have this opportunity now, I'm so addicted to sharing that. And I think in the programs, the 12 steps, at least, one of their things is acts of service. So for me, I've committed my life to act of service. And by doing that, I've changed my whole perspective. The person that I was before is gone and dead. Literally is gone and dead. The person that I am now is a brand new creature. And for me, that comes from my spiritual background too, that I get to change the way that I think. And because I change the way that I think, I get to become a new person. And this new person gets way more opportunities and gets to help out more people. And when I first started, I had this like avatar that I created about the individual that I was, and that was just needing help and looking for an answer, but they wouldn't listen to other people, because I had a lot of people telling me the same stuff, but I couldn't listen to them. I couldn't receive it because they couldn't tell me how many cc's they used to shoot up, because they couldn't tell me what a blunt was, because they couldn't tell me how much alcohol they drank. They couldn't tell me what their favorite drink was. They couldn't tell me all these things. And so I was barricading myself in. And one of the other obstacles that I had was being homeless, right? Not having a place to stay. And that's where the barricade with ET opened up, because he had been homeless too. So it's like, all right, well, at least I could relate with him on this level. At least he knows what it's like to sleep in a place that's freezing cold, wondering why the hell nobody's coming to check on you. At least he can relate to me on that level. And if I can relate to him on that level, then maybe I can apply some of these other topics. And that's why I think the many paths concept is so great, Raymond, because your path and your situation, I don't have any kids. I've never been married, right? You said married and kids. Like that's some things that people listen to you because of your experience with that and alcoholism. Some people won't listen to me because they're like, yeah, Nico, you don't know what it's like to deal with my woman. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You don't know what it's like to deal with being married, Nico. I'm like, all right, you're right. But the concepts are there. And if I can explain these concepts to somebody and that one person can grasp on them and they can reteach it to someone else, man, it's a chain. It's a chain reaction of helping people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's I like the take what you need and leave what you don't.
Absolutely.
I've done a lot. I did a lot of that with early AA meetings, but now I see what I can bring to the meeting instead of just going and looking for something at the meeting every time and stuff like that. And that's been my big thing. And yeah.
Answer me this real fast, Raymond. How do you feel, just for the listeners, how do you feel whenever you get to bring something that opens up someone else's mind?
Well, it inflates my ego, which I don't, but it makes me feel good. It really does make me feel good, but I also I can't let it, I can't let my ego overtake me either. And that's, man, my ego is, well, a lot of people relate to this, but I try to be more humble than anything now, but yeah, it's a great feeling.
Absolutely.
I went almost 4 months without doing this show. Then I think it was the last, maybe 2 episodes ago, or the last. I got to look, but it was Blue. He came on the show, and he works with my same sponsor. But how he got to where he was at was through this show. And it's like, and basically, I got a bunch of guff to get off my ass. And I had an episode sitting on the soundboard, and I'm not going to sit here and rationalize or make an excuse. And when I did release the episodes, I apologize. I did what an alcoholic does, Hey, but I didn't drink. And, I was maintaining stuff with my family, whatever. But yeah, they put me back into action and being of service. And that's what I should be doing. And makes me feel good when I hear that. Then when I get a text from someone and they're like, hey, someone said they relate to what you said on Ray's show. I related to. That makes me feel good. And it's just like, yeah, we got to keep doing this. We got to keep pushing it. And yeah. And quit making excuses and just stay on it. But I can't force people to share stories, and I suck sitting here talking to myself. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful people's been sending me emails and reaching out, stuff like that. But also I've been getting back into meetings and sharing more of my story of what I do and why I do it. The podcast was initially, it was a selfish reason. Oh, my sponsor wants me to do service commitment. I know how to podcast. I know how to produce. I know how to do this. Let's do that. Now be our service. Then, look, I'm still doing it. I'm still participating in AA. It's because the outcome is far greater. And the change of behavior in myself is, sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm just like, man, I'm getting old, but I really can actually stand looking at myself today. And that's a lot to say for me. I mean, I've shared some of my horror stories and stuff like that, and I can truly look in the mirror and be happy with what I'm looking at and what I've become. And just remember, Nico, if you have 1 foot in the past and a foot in the future, you're just pissing on the present.
Yeah, man. That's a great thing.
The floor is yours.
That's a great statement. Well, what I would say is I asked women that because it's something that everybody can have. Like even right now, if you are still participating in a behavior that you're not happy with, do something for someone else without telling anybody, and then go participate in your behavior. And watch how long it takes you to actually participate in that behavior that you're trying to change. You can get this good feeling And it doesn't have to, this good feeling will trump whatever that behavior is going to give you. And eventually you start to want to do it more and more and more. And so you progress that bad behavior. But do something, man. Do something for someone else without telling anybody, and watch how your attitude changes. Watch how something in your chest just happens. And it's beautiful. It doesn't have to be being someone's sponsor. It doesn't have to be handing out food to the homeless, man. It can be a freaking smile to the person who cuts you off instead of flipping them off. Like, that's doing something nice to someone else. Doing something nice is seeing somebody in front of you that has a pack of gum at the gas station and telling them, hey, can I pay for that? Right before you go buy your drink. Like, there's small ways. And if you start looking out for someone else and stop looking out for yourself primarily, your world will change incredibly.
Yeah, I've used that. I learned that early, in early sobriety, and it took me a minute to grasp that concept. The one thing I try not to do is do it in front of my kids, because they ask me why, and they go, "Why are you doing that?" And I'm like, well, you guys see it, so I have to make it up later. I'm just like, come on, and because I talk to them and try to explain some of this stuff, and they're younger, but it's just like, and my wife's just like, Daddy's trying to be a better man. Well, Daddy is a good man. Well, he's trying to be better, damn it.
And let me do it. Stop watching me be a better person, right?
Yeah. So no, I love that. I love that concept. I mean, I hear a lot of people use that. Now that's very, very powerful. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. And it's something that's totally actionable regardless of where you're at in your journey. If you're thinking about stopping drinking, if you have stopped drinking and you're in what I call that sober lull, that sober boredom, because that hits everybody. You're just like, yeah, well, I got sober. Now what? This is life. Yeah, that can have people go back. I know a couple of people that have slipped back. I've slipped back many times because of that. Before I learned that, when I feel that moment, when that time comes, I need to go be of service to somebody else. I need to go find somebody to help. I need to go find somebody to give to. I need to go find somebody that I can take care of. And just thinking about some of my colleagues who are incarcerated, even for them, like when I get to share with them, like, hey, you can't go out and help anybody on the outside, but is there somebody on the inside that you can help out? And sometimes they're like, nah, Nico, I'm in isolation. All right, cool. Well, when you're in isolation, can you think about that person who wishes they were in the United States in your prison system rather than another El Salvadorian prison system? Can you think about them? Can you create that person in your mind? Because if you can create that person in your mind, then you can start acting as they would act in this situation right now. And if you can act in their situation as that situation right now, you could really create a scenario in your mind that helps you do better. So maybe you're not in isolation, and they're just like, it's hard. And I'm like, yeah, I have no idea, never been incarcerated, but I do know that we all have these minds. And so for me, at least when I don't want to get up and I don't want to do my prayer, I think about the person who has to hide their own religious beliefs. When I don't want to do my workouts, I think about the time where I couldn't work out. Then I think about the people who don't have limbs that wish they could work out even when they didn't want to. And it's those tricks that we can play on ourselves that can increase that act of service. Because you might not be in a place where you can help someone else out physically, but in your head, if you can create the person that would like to receive help from you, would like to be in your situation, you can be successful just doing that.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
You say a lot of stuff the big book says.
Yeah.
Have you ever read the big book?
No, I haven't read the big book. I had about 2 years ago, I had this guy come out of treatment, and he said, Nico, I want to do the AA. Will you sponsor me? I was like, I've never been a sponsor in my life, so I guess I better open up this thing that you follow. And so I glanced over it and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I just do it this way. That makes sense. I just do it this way. So no, I think it's the exact same stuff, just written differently.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was told to read a few parts, write on my thoughts about it, and some other things. I went back and I read it now, and I go back to it because I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of words anymore. The word God used to just disgust me. Higher power, because I'm just one of those people. I feel like it's, I have the will to make my own actions and decisions and thoughts, and if I'm gonna do this, I have to do this on my own. But now it kind of makes sense on like why some of the stuff is worded and why these people believe. Why did I let this stuff bother me? And I could have stopped a lot of headaches and heartaches a while ago if I wouldn't have been such a dumb knucklehead when I tried AA the first couple times. But that's not how it works. I wasn't desperate enough. That's the way I look at it. I finally got desperate enough but I also was fortunate enough to be introduced to my current sponsor today, and having conversations with him and just hearing him say I'm a whole different person. And it's just like someone pinched me because I'm just like, huh. I guess that's
I still see the same face in the mirror, right?
Yeah,
Like
same face, but different person.
Yeah. And I think the last thing I'd like to just share with anybody is that what Raymond just described is a crucial point of it. What I've described with that guy, ET, is a crucial point of it. You got to have some accountability. There's got to be some accountability somewhere. Accountability and community. That's what we have. Raymond has it with his sponsor. I have it with my virtual people. And I'll even go this far, man. I've been able to meet the guy, interact with him. He knows my name. And like, for me, that's cool. Like, I don't like to put people on a pedestal because he eats, he sleeps, he shits, just like everybody else. But it's cool to be able to know that this guy that I used to look at on the screen, he now knows my name, and I got his name. Like, it's cool to have that interaction. So accountability and community is what I'm trying to drive home. However you choose to find that, that's a pivotal thing that you need for this change. Whether it's a sponsor, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a coach, whether it's a pastor, if you like to go that route, you need accountability and community. Those are the two things that you need to find.
I love that you just said that. And you're not putting someone on a pedestal. That person was a pivotal part in your life. I interviewed a musician a few episodes back, and they ended up coming back and ended up doing a show up here in Ohio, and I got to go meet him. Because he came on this show, shared his story with me, and I had the time to go meet him, and it was very cathartic to me. And I'm standing there with a man in his mid-40s, and I'm in my mid-40s, and I'm tearing up getting a picture taken with the man. I'm not putting him on a pedestal, but it was a connection I made with that man.
Absolutely.
And that's the power of the connection, the power of the communities we make. Yeah. I love what you're putting down, man. So do you have just the one book, or do you have another book? You have another book coming? Let's do all the plugging. Let's throw all that stuff out there.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for the opportunity to plug this, Raymond. I do have a second book coming out. This is more for the mindset after you've stopped. And that's going to be, I think, still trying to memorize that title, but it's 44 yeah, I'm not even going to try to plug that title. I got a second book coming out, though, and it's going to be on my website. That's what you can go ahead and check out, www.nohalonm.com. That's the best way to get access to any and all of the content that I provide, because Raymond has his podcast as his community service content. I have a YouTube channel. That YouTube channel is No Halo NM, Instagram No Halo NM, Facebook No Halo NM, for community service content. And it's really just these thoughts that I come up with and I share them because I know that there was something on the internet that helped me change. So I need to go ahead and give back. I know that there was a book that I read that helped me change. So I know I need to give back a book. But main source to plug anything Nico related is nohalonm.com. You can find me there. I give out free strategy sessions if you just want to talk. I also run a coaching program if you are looking to invest in yourself with other individuals who have had similar experiences. And then I do corporate trainings. They let me go in. I got this HR certification where I can go into corporations and train on professional development using the same life experiences that I have. So if you're in the market for that, last thing I do is keynote speeches. That's one of my favorite things to do, is to, share these concepts, share my story to the masses, because there's somebody out there. If there's just one person that can change from it, then I did my job for that day. And every day I wake up looking to help that one person out. But yeah, nohalonm.com, nohalonm on all platforms. That's where you can find me.
Awesome, man. I'll make sure I put all the links in the show notes for this. I really appreciate you coming onto the show and becoming a part of my recovery, Nico. This is so powerful, man.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate you allowing me to share this time and space with you, Raymond. It's been a great time chatting up.